Hello everyone. In this Module 1 of Principles and Practices of Management, we would be starting with a major topic called planning. Let's start with its first module, which covers the meaning, concept, nature of planning, principles and process of planning, types of plans, and limitations of planning. The first slide says the concept definition of planning. It says planning is deciding in advance what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and who to do it. It involves anticipating the future and consciously choosing the future course of action. Thus, it is basically a process of thinking before doing. All these elements speak about the futility of an action. According to Hammond's, planning is the function that determines in advance what should be done. According to Kunjan O'Donnell, have defined planning in terms of future course of action. They stated that planning is the selection from the most alternatives for future courses of action for the enterprise as a whole and each department within it. So planning involves defining the organization's goal, establishing overall strategies for achieving goals, and developing a comprehensive set of plans to integrate, coordinate organizational work. Let's come to what is planning. It says it's a primary function of management. It is determination of future course of actions in advance. It is basically the blueprint of action and operations. So planning is intellectual process, which is concerned with deciding in advance what, when, why, how, and who shall do the work. So the primary managerial activity that specifies the objectives to be achieved in future and selects the alternative course of action to reach defined objectives. Thus, it involves three things, that is defining the organizational goals. Second, establishing an overall strategy for achieving those goals. Third, developing plans for organizational activities. Let's come to the nature or the features of planning. It says planning is goal-oriented, means every plan specifies the goals to be attained in the future and the steps necessary to achieve them. So a manager cannot do any planning unless the goals are known. Second, it's a primary function. Third, planning is all-pervasive, means it is a basic function of managers at all levels, although the nature and scope of planning will vary at each level. Planning is a mental exercise. That means planning is not a simple process. It's an intellectual exercise involving thinking, forethoughts on the part of the manager. Fifth, planning is a continuous process. Sixth, planning involves decision making. Seventh, planning is forward-looking. That means it is keeping with the edge. That is, look before you leap. Thus, planning means looking ahead. It is a futuristic in nature since it is performed to accomplish some objectives in future. Planning is also flexible. Planning is an integrated process. And the last says planning includes efficiency and effectiveness dimension. Let's come to the importance of planning. The first, it says, minimizes uncertainty, means the future is generally uncertain and things are likely to change with the passage of time. So planning helps in minimizing the uncertainties of the future as it anticipates the future events. Second, it emphasizes on objectives, means the planning is a fixed set of objectives. When the objectives are clearly fixed, the execution of the plans will be facilitated towards these objectives. Third, promotes coordination, means planning helps promote the coordinated efforts on account of predetermined goals. Fourth, facilitates control, means planning and control are inseparable in the sense that unplanned actions cannot be controlled. Controlling is nothing but making sure that activities conform to the plans. Fifth, improves competitive strength, that is, it enables an enterprise to discover new opportunities which give it a competitive edge. Sixth, economical operation, means since planning involves a lot of mental exercise, it helps in proper utilization of resources and it eliminates the unnecessary activities. So it in turn leads to an economy in operations. Seventh, it encourages innovation. That is, it is basically deciding the functions of the management. Means like many new ideas come in the mind of the manager when he's planning. This creates an innovative and foresighted attitude among the managers. The last one is tackling complexities of modern business. Means with modern business becoming more and more complex, planning helps in clearly getting a clear idea about what is to be done, when it is to be done, where it is to be done, and how it is to be done. Let's come to the principles of planning. It says planning is contribution of objectives. Second, principle of efficiency of plans. Third, principle of primary of planning. Fourth, principle of planning premises, principle of policy framework, principle of timing, principle of alternatives, principles of limiting factors, principles of commitments, principles of flexibility, principles of navigational changes, and principle of competitive strategies. There is a small difference between the planning and decision making, as decision making is a part of planning process and decision making involves choosing among the various alternatives. So it is basically the process of identifying the problems and opportunities and then solving them. Now, what do the manager do? Like when he has to plan, what does he do? What are the purposes and the benefits? The purposes of planning is it provides direction, it reduces uncertainty, it minimizes wastage and redundance, and it sets the standards for controlling. The benefits are it is goal focused, it minimizes uncertainty, it improves efficiency, it facilitates to control, there is innovation and creativity, there is better coordination. It ensures commitment is there, that it is an aid to business success, and it brings systemization also. This is the chart of the types of plans. Like at the top level, they go for a long-term plans, middle management go for a standing and the short-term plans, or single-use and short-term plans, and in the middle of the first level managers, they go for policies, procedures, and budget. Let's come to the types of plan. First is the strategic plans, means it applies to the entire organization. It establishes the organization's overall goals and it seeks to position the organizations in terms of its environment, and it covers the extended period of time. Whereas the operational plans, it specifies the details of how the overall goals are to be achieved and it covers short period of time. Under long-term plans, it says plans are within the framework of beyond 3 years. And the short-term plans are framework of 1 year or less than 1 year. Next, it says the specific plans, which is clearly defined and leaves no room for interpretations. The directional plans are flexible plans. They set out general guidelines, provides focuses, yet allows discretion in implementation. The seventh one is the single-use plan, which says it is a one-time plan specifying the design to meet the needs of a unique situation. Eighth, it is the standing plan, which says ongoing plans that provides guidance for activities performed repeatedly. Let's come to the process of planning. It starts with establishment of objectives, then developing strategies to achieve those objectives, then determination of premises, which all things will be used, then determination of the alternatives from which the best alternative can be selected, then evaluation of the alternative and selecting a course of action to achieve that objective, and formulation of derivative plans, implementation of plans, and reviewing the planning process. Let's start with the first. It says analyze the opportunities. It is the pre-step of the planning. It is not the first step, but it is the pre-step. It is essential because for the successful of the plan, and SWOT analysis is used under this. Setting objectives, it's the first and the real starting point of the planning, and the management has to define objectives in a clear manner by considering organizational resources and the opportunities, because a minor mistake in setting the objectives might affect in implementation of plans. So objectives must be specific, clear, and practical. They should be in time bound and expressed in numerical terms. Next is the determination of premises. It's like premises, they are the assumptions about the future in which the planning is implemented. So they provide an environment and boundaries for the implementation of the plan in practical operations. The premises can be tangible and intangible and external. The fourth step says it's the determination of alternative. That is, the information about the alternative course of action may be obtained from the primary and the secondary sources. There must be search for the best alternative, and the management must develop alternatives through the support of the experienced and intellectual experts in management sector. The fifth step says evaluation of alternatives. That is, alternatives from there, the expected cost and benefits are estimated. There are logical steps to evaluate each alternatives from its plus and minus points. So each alternative is studied and evaluated in terms of some common factors such as risk, responsibility, planning premises, resources, technology, etc. The sixth step is selecting a course of action, and the seventh step is formulation of derivative plans. That is, it is essential to formulate an action or derivative plans for first step of the work and to all the departments of the organization. These action plans involves formulation of policies, rules, schedules, and budget to complete the defined objectives. Thus, formulation of derivative plans is an essential step in planning process. So it is difficult to implement main plan without the formulation of derivative plans. The eighth step says implantation of plans, means without these steps, these procedure of plan will remain as paperwork. So this step brings all the procedure of the plans into action. For implementation of plans, management has to take some steps such as communicate with the subordinates who initiate to plan into action, provide necessary instructions and guidance, make arrangements of all resources like materials, machines, money, equipment, etc., and making timely supervision and control over the subordinates. And the last one is reviewing the planning process. But this has its own limitations also. That is the limitations of planning, which is lack of accurate information available, or the time and the cost available, the resistance to change from the employees or the subordinates, and there is a lack of ability to plan. Next is a false of sense of security, and the last one is the environmental constraint. But planning, to effectively plan, there are some few barriers also. Like first, it says influence of external factors. That is, effectiveness of the planning is sometimes limited because of the external, that is the social, political, economical, technological factors which are beyond the control of the planner. The second one says non-availability of data, means there is a need of reliable facts and figures, and planning loses its value unless reliable information is not available. So people's resistance, that is resistance to change, hinder the planning. Planners often feel frustrated in instituting the new plans because of the inability of the people to accept them. And the last barrier is the time and cost. That is, collection of data and revision of plans involves considerable amount of time, efforts, and money. This is all in this module. Thank you so much.